We need to give Americans a product they can love. A figure they can rally behind. We're gonna put a man inside a machine.
So I had a meeting at MGM, and they were offering me movies to make. And RoboCop was not one of them. They were offering me Magnificent Seven, let's make Hercules, and let's do that. But at the same time, there was a RoboCop poster in the room, and I am a total fan of the original movie. I think it's a brilliant film, an iconic classic. And I said to them at the middle of all that meeting, I said, how about that? Do you guys hold the right for that? And they go like, we do. And I said, I want to make that. That's the movie I want to make. And they said, what's your take on it? And then I gave them my take. And they said, okay, let's do it. And then I started developing it.
No policeman is ever going to die in the line of duty again because of you.
This is the only chance your husband has.
Excuse me, Robo. Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble.
The 1987 version is a classic, and we're coming up on 30 years old. It still holds up.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
The reason we got involved in making this version of the picture was that they felt there was an opportunity to do something completely, quite a bit different. And so it's not so much trying to give it just a more modern spin, but it's almost a completely different story.
A machine does not know what it feels like to be human. It can't understand the value of human life. Why should it be allowed to take one?
We approached this movie very differently for a variety of reasons. One of the key differences in our approach is, José was very interested in this story of a man who becomes a machine and about the cost of that.
You say you can save him. What does that mean? What kind of life will he have?
Do you, by building him into a suit of some sort, something to enable him to be able to survive, can you also take away his humanity? And if you do, to what purpose and to what end?
Alex believes he is in control, but he's not. It's the illusion of free will.
We're not making Iron Man. This is not a guy who invented a suit and become all powerful. This is a guy who became a robot against his will. How do you deal with that? That question is important for us. Probably the most important thing in our movie. It's how do you make RoboCop, and how does the making of RoboCop affects the man inside the machine?
So there's sort of an existential element to it that wasn't really covered in the Verhoeven movie.
Combat robots are my job, Doc. Our machines run perfectly. You asked me sticking organics into the system is a huge step backwards.
The idea here was to make a movie that would show the drama of a man who had been stripped of his humanity, of part of it, but at the same time, tackle the issues of using drones and robots. And we are actually getting close to a world where warfare will be automated. And once you replace soldiers by robots, the pressure is gone because nobody's dying.
Stay put. My guy's got it.
Same thing goes with law enforcement. If you have policemen and you pressure policemen to do something, the policeman may have an idea about it and say, no, I don't want to do it. It's just too risky. Once you replace the policeman by robots, the constraints go out of the window. So Verhoeven saw that clearly, that connection between the risk of fascism and the automation of violence.
Book him.
So it's fascinating for me to have a chance to tackle this project, talking about current issues, but still keeping the philosophical core of the original character.
I've selected 13 targets for today, all wanted for murder. Ambulances, detention vehicles, and coroners should be ready to move in on my request.
But at the same time, we wanted this movie to reach a broad audience. And so in order to do that, we went for it. We went for the cool gunfight. We went for the amazing 209. We went for the scope of robots invading terrain. We did all of that. And it's a big part of the movie. And even in the small setups, where you see, the biology of Alex Murphy interacting with the robotic part of Murphy, we paid a lot of attention to detail.
What is RoboCop? It's a man inside a machine. So our man is reduced down to its essential elements, which are brain, heart, and the lungs. And then the mechanics, or the robotics, tap into that brain, and the brain operates the body.
Because RoboCop wasn't bit by a spider, he was actually made through science, it's sort of imperative that that science is grounded in a way that feels authentic and believable. And one of the great advantages to José, because he is a trained physicist, is he questions the scientific veracity of everything. And as a result, we have a movie that it feels very legitimate. You know, anytime you're making a movie with one sort of outlandish idea, which is a corporation combined a man with a robot and made him into a policeman, you have an obligation that everything else feels really grounded, and that's not lost on José. That's an important part of what we're doing.
Because we want to have a basis in reality, once we had an idea or saw an idea in another movie or whatever the case may be, we then would want to legitimize it by doing research and finding out, is it conceivable? And sure enough, conceivable. The technology that we're presenting is based in technology that's happening right now, and our idea is that if it's being researched right now, it's going to be commonplace in 25 years. So that's very exciting.
What kind of suit is this? It's not a suit. It's you.
What have you done to me?
Let him run!
Obviously, we make movies for people to enjoy, and we did our best. We put a lot of effort on this with our hearts, not only me, but all the cast. So we really hope the audience gets all the ideas, because there are ideas in these movies, but also has a lot of fun and enjoys the experience.
This is the future of American justice.
Criminals, mercenaries, other robots. I mean, we definitely put this guy through his paces. He's a one-man Navy SEAL team.
Low ready.
I'm hanging out with Uncle Scotty, who's teaching us about gunfire, how to make it flow like water.
Okay, I want you to slow down. Open your mouth, breathe. Smooth. If it was easy, I'd be teaching Girl Scouts and nuns. Move. Take it. Go.
I need to learn how to handle a gun a lot better than I could before.
Sight now.
You know, it's learning from somebody that's been a Navy SEAL and worked in LA Metro for 26 years and 10 years in SWAT. You know, he's been in a lot of real gunfights, and he helped me hit a 3-foot target from 135 yards with the handgun. I did not think that was going to be possible, but Uncle Scotty's pretty good.
That's a hit.
It's not the weapons that count. It's who's handling them.
Our version of RoboCop, he has 2 weapons. He has one machine gun, comes out of his left leg.
M2 battle rifle, 50 caliber Beowulf ammunition and 30-round clips. Heavy duty.
And then he has one taser that comes out of his right leg.
Each projectile releases up to 200,000 volts.
It's happening. They're developing these crazy taser guns that the voltage is ridiculously high, and it's very near lethal, but it's not.
The gun that has become his taser, which at various points was bullets, was taser, it went back and forth, and eventually it was decided that we were going to use this taser technology, which is real technology with this kind of corkscrewing taser unit that has fins that hits somebody and pushes a pin in to deliver the electrical voltage.
TSR-66, cartridge-driven taser pistol.
The gun design itself was very much driven by the look of the original RoboCop gun. So it has that very boxy, very big, oversized look to it, which is what we really tried to do with at least his handgun. So that's the thought with that one. The other one, the machine gun, was kind of its own entity. It didn't have a machine gun in the first one. So we had a little more license to be able to get away with that. And the thought with that one was, you know, it should hint also to the gun, but at the same time be something that's very cool looking and very modern looking. But people need to recognize it as a machine gun with a normal clip, but it doesn't necessarily exist in real world guns that are out there right now.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
RoboCop has this fantastic motorcycle that he rips around Detroit on.
Cruiser One is what it's called. It's not the Bat Bike, it's not this thing that doesn't actually work in the world. It's a motorcycle, and it's based on contemporary superbike geometry. We are actually taking real motorcycles and modifying them to make them look just that much more aggressive, a little larger.
In the concept work, it was going to be much more of a futuristic, weird transformer, for lack of a better word, where the script described it as he lays down in this thing and it kind of wraps around him and he becomes the bike. As we got into those designs, we were starting to feel like Jose was having trouble with that concept of this super future space age bike and taking people out of the more realistic approach to his film. So then it became, let's just do more of a bike from today, but it's just souped up. It's a little more space age. It's a little more integrated. It's been extended. So what we did is we took a Kawasaki Z1000, which is what the base of the bike was, and we lengthened the wheelbase and we pushed it back probably 12 inches or so, just to give it a weirder proportion. That's the original bike there. We custom lowered the gas tank. We put this huge swing arm extension on it to get it beefier and wider. And then it's been a real process of figuring out how you customize this thing to the rider. We had Dorian, who's one of the stunt riders back in LA, and he came and he would lie down on it and he would say, no, this works or this doesn't work. And the design changed a lot as we went through that and found out what was real as far as turning radius and what he could do. It's a difficult bike to ride because it's such a weird wheelbase, and also it has this big bulky cowling that makes it tough to do normal fast speed riding. So I know the stunt guys are not fans of the bike, but we think it looks great, and it's certainly given us all the scenes that we've wanted.
It's just another example of a real-world concept or product. In this case, it's a motorcycle that will be able to take him wherever he needs to go at insane speeds.
Robots have inspired filmmakers since the beginning of cinema, and I think humans have always had this fascination about creating some material thing that is replicating us and our movements. And we've seen examples like Blade Runner, the original RoboCop, Star Wars, all these fantastic movies that people always love. And I think our re-envisioning of RoboCop is going to take that to the next level.
Rob Bottin, who designed the original RoboCop suit, is revered by many, especially myself. And I speak for Mike that we're both huge fans of the original RoboCop.
I was definitely nervous. I was just like, well, even if we do the best suit ever, it's going to be compared to the original, and it holds a place in a lot of people's heart where they just don't want to see it remade, which I completely understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, it's like, to get an opportunity to work on it is, to me, again, it'd be a childhood dream come true.
As far as the suit goes, Jose approached it from a very scientific standpoint. He looked at what could be done, how would it actually look, how would it be to create something that could perform the stunts that needed to be performed, and what would a man who was no longer had his limbs, for instance, and was basically just a few body parts, what would be required to create this machine?
Legacy Effects built the suits in LA, which is Stan Winston's old company. They have so much history in, knowing how a suit functions and guiding us, and you might want to rethink this joint here, in your design. So as we went through all those processes, we really got it down to an art.
The first thing I had to stress was, okay, we got to get our actor, and we've got to find someone that's tall and lean. That's always the challenge. So it helped that we had long, tall, lean performers to build up and work on top of. Thankfully, Joel was a great body type to work on top of. I think he's about 6'3". He's lean. The whole idea was to keep those proportions.
You're under arrest.
We went through a lot of different ideas in the beginning. It went from being a very bulky, larger kind of football superhero suit all the way down to the more streamlined, slim suit that it's become. It's interesting, you want it to be scary, but at the same time, you want it to be friendly enough that people are rooting for this guy. So that was the fight that we had to go through between, making him too much over the top and is his son, when he meets him, going to be so terrified that you're never going to link up with this character in the story.
We knew that the V1 paid enough homage to the original, and that we're hoping that people would look at that and say, oh, okay, they're respecting the source material, and there's fans making it. Go ahead and do your thing.
Pretty badass, man. It has a lot of the detailing of the original RoboCop. It isn't the original RoboCop, but it's close enough to really tip our hat.
We wanted that V1 suit to be very, very similar, and I think everybody did. And when we were working out the colors, we paid very close attention to what was done before. It's not just silver. There's slight iridescent, reflective colors of greens and purples and blue. So we sort of brought that to the mix. I mean, we collaborated very closely with the art department and design team. So it was a very, very collaborative process.
So the black suit, which is the version 3 as we're calling it, is the second iteration of the suit that we see within the movie.
When they were designing the V3, Jose, his idea was that the way robotics are right now, we're kind of to a point where most robots can almost mimic humans. So to have something that moves like a robot felt a little dated to him. So he's like, well, why don't we bring the robot to modern times and say, okay, he can move quicker and faster than the average human. So that was the idea behind the V3 version, which is the black, more sleek suit.
So the idea is that he's a superhuman and has, very fluid motion. But then I did want to give it something a little bit more robotic. So when I was walking, I'd turn my head first and then the shoulders after, like a small homage to how Peter Weller created the movement pattern of the original.
So what we did was we took a scan, a three-dimensional scan of an actor, and that gets transferred into the computer. Then we took digital models, and then we transposed those onto the body forms digitally. Then from that, you clean up that data, and then we mill out the actual body. In other words, out of a hard foam, you go back and you mill out his form. That gives us the basis for which we'll work on. And we'll have his head, and we did an old-fashioned life cast.
They put my whole head in a silicone cast so they could get like every little detail of my head, and you go in deep, you zone out because this silicone mask completely encompasses your whole body, and you just like breathe through your nostrils for 30 minutes.
There you go. Okay, slowly back out. Hi, handsome. How was that?
Felt like I gave birth to myself.
You kind of did.
You get all of the nuances of his face along with the scans. So between all the data, it really gives you a good foundation to build upon. It's a terrific process that's at our fingertips. I mean, back in the old days, you'd be laying up clay onto his body form and sculpting and trying to get the symmetry to both sides. Now, by sculpting it digitally, it allows us to create those assets so that you're very sure before you move to the next step. So it all comes down to choices on how they're going to be built and designed. And once we get that approval, then all of the parts need to be broken out to be rapid prototyped. They're light-cured 3D printing process, so we create all of the parts that way. Then they have to go to our model department, they clean them all up, make sure they're pristine. Then they're molded, then they go to the fabricators.
These are all the molds that we're using to make all the different suit parts. So this is an actual mold in here. That's his forearm, and this is the piece that comes out of it. Then it needs to be trimmed and finally finished and then sanded, and we're done.
All of the suit needed to be transposed to fit Joel and to make sure his joints were free, plenty of clearance for movement, and then still holding on to the integrity of the designs that were, approved.
As they're starting to build it around the actor, we're saying, okay, this piece, being a forearm piece, the forearm only moves at the wrist and at the elbow, so everything can be pretty solid. We don't have to make that out of a super soft material. We can have it something a little more rigid. And then something like the shoulder, which has a lot of mobility, we have to figure out ways to leave that mobility for the actor. So a lot of soft parts underneath, kind of shells over top, so that allows for complete mobility.
The basic concept behind the whole suit is he's got an under layer that is made out of this rubbery material that is the closest to his skin, so that anywhere you're seeing through his armor, it kind of reveals these little details. So we don't get too much into what these look like. It's really just about the very little glimpses that you see, so there's some texture underneath. So this is the underpiece to his shoe. So this is for our stuntman. This will go underneath, and then on top of this, we add all of these pieces of armor that wrap this. So you'll see very little, just little peaks of little details.
If you sense you need a weapon or are threatened, the visor goes down and the system makes the weapons available.
I like the visor because it also refers to the original RoboCop, and it plays with the idea of, looking kind of friendly, and then all of a sudden looking very scary.
The visors were real. There also are computerized ones. When you see the shield come down, that's a computer shot. Which then cuts to, a finished shield, or, depending on what he's doing, it may be digital, or it could be the practical one.
I actually put this on and ran through the shop.
It was a bit of a trick for the visor because, you don't want to reflect the world in it. You see your camera department in the visor, so you want to keep it as dark as possible, but you can't keep it so dark that you can't see through it. And then also having the red light through there was another task that we were trying to figure out, well, how do we do this and have them still see? And, it has to be hot enough for the camera to read and so on and so forth. So it was definitely a challenge all their own.
So this is it.
When we first met Joel, he was super excited to get in the suit. He wanted to inhabit RoboCop. He wanted to be RoboCop. So after our first test fitting, happened to be a particularly hot day here at the shop.
How's it feel?
It's pretty hot.
Knowing that there's going to be long days of this, I'm sure it took him back a little bit, thinking, what did I get myself into? In fact, we have a cool suit that we had on him the entire, pretty much the entire shoot.
A cool suit is a mesh vest with a series of water hoses that are sewn into the vest that is plugged into a cooler with a pump that pumps the cool water into the vest, which keeps the actor's core cooler and makes them a lot more comfortable where they can't get out of the suit. It'll cool them off in a hot environment like under studio lights.
Play cooler?
Huh?
Is it working?
Yeah.
But there was a moment when we were on set and Michael Keaton comes up to him and starts comparing Batman suit to RoboCop suit and talking about how
who had it worse?
Yeah, who had it worse.
I mean, Batman suit was so cool. I mean, it just was, it was ridiculous and tremendous at the same time. His is kind of like that, but I used to tell Joe what a big baby he was all the time. He said, this is nothing. Even little air conditioning units in there.
How much does it weigh, the whole thing?
You know what? Good question. I will have to weigh the whole suit and find out.
Step on the scale.
Right behind you.
224. 42 pounds. The suit's 42 pounds.
Weight's always an issue, so we're always constantly thinking about how we keep it as light as possible, so we don't fatigue the actor, and keep it as cool as possible. We don't want to add too many layers because the actor is running around.
You're constantly uncomfortable, constantly at the wrong temperature, and while you're acting and during the scenes, the suit is very helpful. It creates 80% of the character on its own. But, in between takes, when you're trying to hang out and just talk, you're like, hey, you just feel awkward.
Put your hands behind your back.
You can't deny that you're in this big black suit. It's a fact, you can do all the acting work you want, but you're a guy in a big black rubber suit. Then the acting part has to kick in and go, okay, I accept that. And Joel is a very, very serious actor and really good, and he stuck in it all day long. He seldom got out of it, it's sit through the whole day, get locked into his character, and really knew how to, kind of transcend it, actually.
I realized halfway through the shoot that all those things that I was feeling was 2% of what Alex Murphy was feeling. And then I realized that it was actually something that was helpful, just feeling insecure and feeling naked, because you're not wearing clothes and you're naked underneath, so you feel weird. And Alex would have felt 100 times that.
I love the old film, and I love what José is created with this version, and it was a great opportunity for us to update the character of RoboCop.
Make him more tactical. Make him look, let's go with black.
You can cuff him now, Jack.
Welcome to Omnicorp's product launch, featuring in-depth presentations of our next-generation military and law enforcement technologies. The power-assisted exoskeleton amplifies the speed, strength, and stamina of human soldiers. With this suit, a single person is more effective than an entire platoon of soldiers. Omnicorp, redefining the effective use of manpower. The EM-208 is a state-of-the-art 100% robotic soldier. The battle-ready robot is armed with 2 carbon-infused pistols that are 98.73% accurate from up to 800 meters. The weapons can switch to armor-piercing rounds mid-blast and even have short-range flame-throwing capability, reducing the need for precious human lives in the field. The ED-209 stands 11 feet tall and comes equipped with twin Cobra cannons and Hellfire missiles that can be deployed a full 360 degrees. ED-209 is built from a blast-resistant material that is also environmentally sensitive and runs on solar power. Omnicorp protects the public and the environment simultaneously. The XT-908 XT stands for Extreme Tactics, and this aerial drone delivers with a power range of 45 continuous hours and an operational altitude of over 55,000 feet. Armed with tactical micro-missiles and a 50-pound laser-guided surgical bomb, the XT-908 is the definition of aerial vigilance. The Cruiser One is any motorcycle cop's dream come true. It can reach speeds of 248 miles per hour, but officers are advised to keep it below 200 miles per hour for optimal handling. The TSR-66 is Omnicorp's gift to law enforcement. With a weight of just 21.7 ounces and built-in horizontal stabilizers that increase accuracy by 27.5%, this handgun makes every officer an unerring marksman. The M2 battle rifle combines the range, high projectile output, and unbridled firepower of an assault rifle with the compact and lightweight qualities of a handgun. This little wonder can be easily concealed by undercover officers, but still has the rounds per second to subdue a whole gang of criminals. The RC2000 version 1 is the perfect marriage of state-of-the-art law enforcement and human integrity. Combining the pure power, stamina, and accuracy of Omnicorp's highest robotics and the clear-headed decision-making of one of Detroit's finest, RoboCop is law enforcement redefined. The RC2000 version 3 builds upon the brilliance of its predecessor by offering muted tactical colors, a retractable targeting visor, and even more processing capability. It makes the best even better. The next generation RoboCop is on the horizon, and while we can only offer a glimpse at this next generation RoboCop, rest assured that the future of police work is in good hands at Omnicorp. Omnicorp, providing state-of-the-art solutions for the front lines of the war on crime.
From the command centers in the Pentagon to the streets of Tehran, we always get there first.
General, could you lift your chin up just a bit? Thank you. There's a weird shadow, but that's much better.
Honey, you get any of that up my nose, I'm gonna be sneezing through this whole segment.
Yeah, I know.
Allergic? Yeah.
Okay, that looks good. Can we tighten up a few mils? Perfect. We're live in 20, General.
Very good.
His body is beyond repair, but his brain is completely intact and functioning. He's definitely, I guess the word is viable.
No, the word's not viable, the word is perfect. Born and raised in Detroit, beautiful wife, adorable child, decorated police officer. We'd be saving a hero.
Will the family go for it?
I really can't answer that. It's your department.
Hey, can you save his right hand? My father always said you can tell a lot about a man by his handshake.
I can try. I can try.
All right, see if you can sell it to the family. Get in touch with the mayor. If we can fix Detroit, we can do anything.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like you to imagine a brave new Detroit. Your new police HQ will be integrated into the original structure. What we're talking about is a $200 million facelift. And the city of Detroit won't spend a dime. It'll make the NYPD look positively provincial. And of course, we are open to any contractors you might suggest.
You want to privatize an entire metropolitan police force? It's never been done.
Not yet.
Well, if the mayor agrees, you're inviting the whole robotics controversy to Motor City.
We're well aware that this...
Let me bottom line this for you. If we don't get the crime rate down by 10%, I'm not going to be reelected.
10%? Forget 10%. We're talking about no crime. I'm not talking about prevention. I'm talking about a cure. Governor, I'm sorry, I mean Mr. Mayor. Once this thing is up and running, you'll be the subject of every news outlet in the world.
Well, there's nothing more important than a civic-minded citizen, Mr. Sellers.
So what's happening with the case? Why haven't we caught Valen yet?
What, you think we haven't tried? Valen's Teflon, nothing sticks.
You gotta let me try, Chief, else the case will go stagnant.
Sergeant.
What about IAD? Didn't they dig anything up?
I'm sorry, but they came up short on both Lake and Daniels. Jack, look around. This place is changing. And I can't have you going on some witch hunt pointing fingers at other officers with no proof whatsoever. Understand? Come on. You're supposed to be taking it easy.
That's actually the reason I'm calling you. I thought you might like to know Alex Murphy is on his way to Omnicorp right now.
Alex Murphy is alive?
I need your help.
Why don't you start from the beginning, Doctor?
We've been manipulating Alex and his family almost from the very beginning.